What were your favourite subjects and what did you like best about school?
I really liked art and design and technology, so I love computers and I love playing computer games.
What were you like in secondary school and were you entrepreneurial as a student?
I really loved school, but I also was quite opinionated.
What's the best advice you can give to a student that's looking to start a business at school?
Do it.
If you were a secondary school student again, what type of innovation would you look to start and why?
I think it would be like to have business clubs outside of the school setting.
Hello, welcome to another Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. My name is Richard Layton. I work as the Entrepreneur in Residence within the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship that's part of the University of Liverpool Management School. We're here this morning, again in UTC, the studio in the Baltic Triangle with our Year 9's competitions class. So it's an extracurricular activity where they work on entrepreneurial challenges. Thanks to Mr. Carey, the sector skills champion within the school, for the support not only with the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast, but the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools program as well. Thanks to Jay, as always, the producer and director of the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. Our entrepreneur this morning is Anna Sexton, a business coach, and our two pupils who will be interviewing Anna are Victor and TK, and I'll now hand it over to you both to ask the questions.
How did you become an entrepreneur?
How did I become an entrepreneur? God, that's a big question. So I grew up in the south of England and I've got a lot of family who are artists and creatives. So I had an uncle that was a fashion photographer in the 1980s. My brother's in the building trade. And so I grew up around people who didn't necessarily have traditional 9-to-5 jobs, although some of my family did. And there was a bit of a difference in how I used to see people that came home after a day at 9-to-5. They would be really tired and didn't want to talk to anyone. And what I saw with my uncle particularly was he would go to Miami to do fashion shoots and fly to New York. And I remember thinking, wow, that's really cool. So there was something about wanting to do something that allowed me to have the freedom to do what I wanted when I wanted, but something creative as well.
What do business coaches do and how long have you been a business coach?
That's actually a really good coaching question. So business coaches use coaching skills to help founders of businesses or entrepreneurs to have some time out of their business and think about what they might want to do for themselves as a person and a leader, but also how they want to lead their team and how they want to scale their business. So it's like having a sports coach or an acting coach, but for business. And I would say, having had coaching myself, it's really important, but also it's super important for founders to have time out to think about how they want to grow, how healthy they are, and what the impact of them as a leader is in business. So that's why I do the business coaching. And I've been a business coach officially since 2009, but I started off as a peer mentor when I was in secondary school, I think when I was about 13, 14.
Why did you decide to become a business coach as opposed to running another type of business?
Well, I do actually run a business, but my business offers business coaching. So it's kind of like I was already a business consultant. So I set up in freelance in 2003. And when you're a consultant and you're going into businesses and you're asking questions of people, you have to be good at asking the right question at the right time. And I wanted to get better at being good at asking questions, and so that's how learning to be a coach helped me to improve. And although it sounds simple, just asking a question, as a coach, when you do it as much as I have, you start to have a sense of what the question might be, and you help the person you're coaching to come up with their own answers and find solutions to their challenges. So putting those two things together made me a better consultant, but also allowed me to sell business coaching on its own.
What were you like in secondary school, and were you entrepreneurial as a student?
I like these. These are two questions. So I'm neurodivergent, so I'm going to pick one and then come back to the next one if that's all right, because my brain gets a bit confused. So what was I like in secondary school? I really loved school, but I also was quite opinionated, and so some of the times at school there would be like interactions with other kids that maybe were not so successful, shall we say. So at secondary school, when I was about, I think, year 1 or 2, is it? I can't remember, first or second year, I went to another school. And that was actually better for me because it was much more structured and had a lot more kind of balance between academic learning and sports. So I loved doing athletics and I really like learning, but I needed to be moving around a lot so that I could be good at the learning. So I kind of found a sweet spot at that point. Was I entrepreneurial as a student? I'd like to think so. We had to do like school fairs, so we had to make things and sell them for charity. We had to bake things and make them and sell them for charity. And we also had to help younger students. So we had to take like the register for the years that were younger than us, and we had to mentor them into kind of getting into school and getting into like making friends when they first started. So I would say that's an entrepreneurial skill, is helping people to connect and network together. And when I was in like GCSE time, we had the daughter of Anita Roddick, who set up the Body Shop, came to school, and she really inspired me to be very much more entrepreneurial than I was already. So yeah.
What were your favourite subjects and what did you like best about school?
I really liked art and like design and technology. So I love computers and I love playing computer games. I also really love things like history. And although I'm dyslexic, I didn't know that at the time. I used to struggle with bits of English. I really liked the storytelling part of English, like making up stories. And particularly, I really love drama as well. So I went on to write plays and put school plays on. In fact, actually thinking about entrepreneurship, we used to put plays on at school and then sell the tickets for them. So yeah.
What could school have done to encourage or support you and others into entrepreneurship more?
That's a really good question, and it makes me think of a project that I ended up doing, because I've ended up being a teacher and working in education, like across like early years, primary, secondary, universities. And I think, I don't know if you could do this, but let's imagine we could do whatever we wanted, because we can, just for this moment. I think if they'd let us go outside of school more. So like, I like being outside and learning, but I also get really inspired. Like I got very inspired when I did work experience. I worked in a graphic designer that was sort of around the corner from where I lived, and that being with other people making business really kind of opened my mind to what was possible beyond learning it in a book. I also think things like this would have been amazing. So now there's all kinds of like conferences that young people go to. I went to something in January this year called BET, which is in London every year, and it's full of students going around to like Google stands, Facebook stands, and they're learning around educational technology in a massive, massive big building in London. And I think stuff like that, I think, would have opened our minds a bit more than sitting in the classroom and reading a book, but that's just me.
Did you go to sixth form and university after studying your GCSEs, and how did that help you develop your entrepreneurial skills?
Cool. Okay, so I did go to sixth form in my secondary school, so I really liked the A-level process, even though they're very hard. I found A-levels really, I did 4 as well, because I wanted to do all the art subjects, and my school was like, you have to do a science to stay, so I did biology and art, history of art and theatre studies. So that was a really interesting combination of all the different parts of my brain working very hard. I think that taught me about focused learning and kind of not going out a lot. Like I just had to study really hard because of how my brain works. I went to art college. So at the time when I was at school, you had to go on to do something called a BTEC in fine art. That was my choice. So that was near me. So I think what taught me entrepreneurial skills was like having to get up really early and get the bus off my own back. I had to find my own way there, had to get my own lunch. And by that point, I think I had like 2 jobs. So I was a youth worker and I was also working in a shop because at that point I wanted to have my own money to make my art and do photography. So that taught me about budgeting. And actually working in a shop's really cool for that actually, because you get to actually, well, maybe not so much now, but you had to handle money, cash up, take it to the bank. So it starts you thinking about what comes in and out of a business. And I went to university. So I came to university in Liverpool and I did fine art. And again, just because of my situation, I had 3 jobs throughout the whole of university. So that taught me how to be very entrepreneurial. Yeah.
What did you do before becoming a business coach? Did you work for anyone else or run any other businesses, and what did you learn?
So before becoming a business coach, when I was working at university, I worked in restaurants, I did event management and worked in art galleries and shops. Kind of interesting combo. And when I left university, I continued that. So I ended up working in a place in London called Brick Lane, and they had an amazing, it's a bit like this building actually, it was an old brewery, and someone had converted each of the rooms into like music studios, arts and creative studios. It had one of the first internet techno radio stations. So there was all these creatives all in one building. And my job was to run a restaurant. So there was a restaurant in the bar area, but we also had a precursor to Deliveroo. Awesome. So we had a takeaway delivery company where we would take orders on a fax machine, which is a very old version of communication, which you've probably heard of or seen in a museum. And we would pack up that delivery and then someone would come and collect it like Deliveroo does now. So I managed that as well. I worked in art galleries, I worked in Covent Garden in advertising. And when I became my own business person, I'd been working in like charities, doing fundraising. And I just wanted to do it for myself and have that flexibility of moving to different jobs or different projects. So that's when I started up my own business. And what I took from all those jobs is what I put into my business.
What's the best advice you can give to a student that's looking to start a business at school?
Do it. Like there's sort of part of me that has like a parent head on that says, if you're doing your studies, do your studies. But sometimes you've got your studies and you get really excited about selling trainers online, and you're like really super curious about that. And I think sometimes by making a little bit of time in your week to explore something that gets you really curious alongside the things you have to and must do, because you're at school, right? Until you're not. It kind of makes what you do at school more exciting and interesting. So I would encourage people to explore something that they find interesting, or like, why do you want to make the money? Sometimes people want to go on holiday, or I don't know, like, what would you do if you did a business while you were at school? Unless you do one already. Do you do one? Do you make? What would you do? What do you like to do?
I like to work with fish.
Fish?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I actually have someone that is in my network that I'm going to give you his name, because he's absolutely world class in working with fish in massive buildings all around the world. And that's his passion. It's always been his passion since he was a kid. So like, it's totally possible to make a very significant contribution through your love of fish. So what about you? What would you do if you, like, what's your thing?
I like playing games.
What kind of games? Like board games, computer games?
Computer games.
Great. So again, I'm sure you know more than me, but there's ways that you can monetize your playing and teach other people, like your top tips. So yeah, why not? So yeah, I would definitely encourage people to do it.
What are the plans for you as a business coach in the future, and do you believe you'll set up any more businesses?
That's a great question. So I think those of us who are entrepreneurial are always thinking about new things. So I do a travel business now, and that enables me to help other people to build travel businesses from home. You can be 18 or above. So my new passion is to help as many people in that field to discover their entrepreneurial skills through doing something they already love. So not everybody has not everyone has an idea for a business that they have the confidence to follow through on. So that's great if you do. But some people like to buy a business off the shelf, and I can help with that. And I love that because it's tapping into everybody's like entrepreneurial skills and capacities to be good leaders and make more money for themselves on the side. So that's my big passion at the moment. And I'm also at university, so I've gone back to uni and I'm doing a master's. So I think something will come out of that as well.
If you were a secondary school student again, what type of innovation would you look to start and why?
I had these questions before, so it's not like I haven't thought about this. And I think it would be what I said before. I think it would be about, you know, like you have youth clubs. I think it would be like to have business clubs outside of the school setting. So maybe even if it's in the local coffee shop, like once a month, meet up with other people from the school who are interested in business and try and help each other to do that. So, you know, like you have a sports club and you might have a chess club, or why not a business club? I think that would be what I would do if I was at secondary school again.
That's really awesome. I like the Truman Brewery, and there's an absolutely awesome 24-hour bagel place on Brick Lane as well.
That's right.
So if anyone's ever down in Shoreditch, go to the bagel place. I can highly recommend it. I really like how your school gave pupils accountability and responsibility for those younger than them to mentor them, to help and to support them, and how actually that's influenced you moving forward. So I think, I found that really interesting, how schools influence you in that way, that you've been given that opportunity and you seem to have carried on that.
I think, without going into it too much, because we want to keep it positive and solution focused, like if anyone is listening to this who is at school, who is having a hard time, I had a very hard time, like significantly hard. And actually what made it better was the fact that there were these things that had been put in place, not necessarily someone saying you should do this because it will make you feel better. It was like a sort of peripheral thing of, I thought, look, the freaking youth club people are coming to the school. It's going to be like loads of like kumbaya clapping and stuff. And I absolutely loved it, right? And it was like, I so was that moody teenager that couldn't really admit that I liked it. So my dad did something really smart. He said, it's £20 to do the training. You can do the training, and if you don't like it, you have to give me the money back. I was like, so I've got to like it. And I did like it. And it's something that particular weekend of training to do this youth work, I still use those tools in what I do now. And I was 14 and I'm 51. So like, I think if you're sitting in the room watching or you're listening, you might think that the weird thing you do is weird. Just keep doing it, because it might be a thread that follows you throughout your whole life. Like fish, maybe you never make any business from it, but you learn to be a diver, or you go and work in a museum for fish. Like it's not that it doesn't matter, it's just let your passion be the thing that drives you. And maybe it won't be the thing you make lots of money from, but it will lead to that thing, or do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks ever so much again to Victor and TK for asking the questions.
Thank you.
And we'll now go into the audience to get some more questions off the pupils.
Hi Anna, so you mentioned about all of the various things that you did, whether it was at university or whether it is at the minute. One of the things that we find with young people at this age and a little bit older, particularly up to GCSE, is time management is a real issue for them. They never think they have enough time, and yet it's the time in their life when they have most time. How did you manage that, being neurodivergent particularly? Because you seem to do a lot of things all at the same time, 3 jobs at one stage and so on. Can you give them a little bit of advice about how you manage your time?
I don't know if I'm a very good person to advise about how I managed my time back then, because I would say, as someone who's 51, I often think I don't have enough time. So when I was younger, setting up my own business, I thought I was too young to set my business up. And now I'm 51, I hear myself think sometimes, I think I'm too old to do this. So there's one of the distinctions that might help, and this is from this perspective, I couldn't have said it's from when I was younger, is learn to know what thought is a helpful thought and what thought is a generalized not verifiable as true thought. And that sounds complicated, but there's a difference between saying, I don't have any time, to, oh, actually, I've got 15 minutes tonight. I know I've got an essay to do. Maybe I don't really want to do it. Maybe there's something on Netflix I really want to watch that all my mates are watching, and I want to be able to have that conversation when I get into school tomorrow. So I'm going to do that 15 minutes now and just do that. And that might sound impossible, but if you start doing 15 minutes of little pockets of time, we all can do more in 15 minutes than then if we just sit with the laptop on and the music. So I think it's finding your way to do that. But as a young person, do you know what? I think a lot of it was that we had to have it done, and if we didn't do it, we would get into trouble. Like my second secondary school was particularly strict, and I was a good student, but I was at a school with loads of very, very smart people that went on to go to Oxford and Cambridge. That's not to say I couldn't have done that, but I think being around other people that were smarter than me kind of made me kind of want to keep up a little bit as well. So there was a bit of my own pressure to not fail, but also, you know, a lot of the time I did fail because I just wasn't very good at maths, for example, you know. I don't know if that answers your question.
As you were talking, we had a few people who were fidgeting a bit, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Yeah?
No.
But
fidgeting is good. That means you're alive.
So you talked a lot about passion to the two students here, and we obviously have lots of people who have passions in different areas. How do you coach people into taking that passion into a business? So give them like a sort of an idea of the first steps. So I'm going to pick on particularly two down here. So someone was looking at makeup and someone was looking at hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
and one
that.
of the best entrepreneurs that we have are people who have hairdressing salons and, you know,
Yeah.
sort of
Exactly.
that sort of things. Yeah?
Well,
so how could we turn that passion, that
Yeah.
interest into a business, do you think?
As a coach, I often say to someone, like, you know, like we're using the hair example or the makeup, sometimes what you're passionate about isn't the thing that you might develop as a business because it might kill your passion. Some people, they're so passionate about the makeup that they will do that regardless. So that's a brilliant choice for them because we get knockbacks. So you start going out and talking to people and saying, oh, I'm thinking of doing some makeup. Maybe I'd like to do it for the prom. If I did it for you, how much would you pay? Oh, I wouldn't pay anything. Don't take that as a no. That's just one person's feedback. If you ask 20 people, you might come out with, oh, I'll pay you 20 quid. Oh, okay. 15 people said 20, some people said none. Or maybe I'll explore that for a little bit. So that's one way I would look at it. I'd also suggest that if you are really passionate about something, find other people who are already doing what you're passionate about. But then there's that fine edge of, oh my God, they're so amazing. You know, like my influence are people like Brené Brown, Tony Robbins. Like, if we're having a competition, are we saying who would win? But then actually I started coaching officially in 2009, and 2 years ago I won a global award for my coaching. That didn't even exist when I started coaching. And so don't know if I'm answering your question, because there's a lot of school of thought that says don't follow your passion. Passion isn't the thing that will keep you going. But I also think, like, when you're your age, what a wonderful age. So aside of stuff that you like at school or don't like, that's great if you know what you don't like and you know what you do like. It might be the thing that you sort of aren't bothered about at school that turns out to be your thing. Just because no one's really putting any pressure on you, you know? It's great to be really good at something, but then that can feel pressure. And it actually sometimes is good to be not so good at something, because you think, all right, if I had 15 minutes to do that homework, I'm just going to do my best. And we don't talk enough about like that middle ground of what might be something that someone else really needs. So a lot of what I do, coaching, people don't know they need it, but when they have it, they're like, oh my God, why didn't I have that before? So I can talk to absolutely anyone, unless it's another language that's not one of my top skills. But I get to work with people that work in like hydroelectric power, e-cars, health tech, arts. I get to work with all these amazing people, but I'm the coach. So if you're into makeup, maybe that's your way in to start working in other ways. I don't know.
What made you confident that you can actually start coaching someone else rather than the thoughts that usually make us paranoid that I need to know more before I start coaching?
Great question. Well, I got into coaching because I had a partner at the time and family members and people I worked with who said I was terrible at listening. So I knew that if I found a course that would teach me to be less terrible at listening, I might actually be an okay coach. So I didn't go into coaching going, oh, I'm amazing. I went into coaching thinking, oh, lots of people tell me I'm not very good at listening. How can I improve on this? And so what I used to do when I first started coaching, I used to have a list of the coaching questions in front of me and look at them all the time and think, oh, which coaching question should I ask now? And now I don't do that at all. So I think it's like anything that you get into. You start off knowing you're not very good at it at all, and then over practice. So I've coached thousands of people from all different walks of life. It's such an honor. And actually, I don't use really fancy tools. I mean, I have a thing, oh, I haven't got a PhD in coaching. But I've coached thousands and thousands of people, and that's the work. And over time, the best feedback that I get from a coaching client is going, oh my God, that's the best question I've ever heard in my life. And I say, oh yeah, I just reflected back exactly what you said yourself. And they go, did I? So that's when I know that the coaching is really working. And confidence comes in, I also think, knowing you're not very good at something. That's a really confident place to be. Like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. Doesn't feel necessarily like big confident, but there's a confidence in saying, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try something out. And what's the worst that could happen? And that's something I think coaching can really help with. And ultimately, everybody that comes for coaching is coaching themselves. So it's to the extent that which that person wishes to be coached and hear their own thoughts reflected through me, they're really coaching themselves. So, yeah. Oh, hello.
Okay. So what if a business is failing? How do you get it back on track?
Oh, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by failing, because it's a big spectrum, isn't it?
It's losing. It's like people don't want to come to it anymore.
Yes, that's a good
losing
question.
Its profits.
So it's losing its people don't want to come in if they're still there, and it's losing its profits. Well, first of all, if someone's coming for coaching and they're open enough to say that, that's a really excellent place to be, because we only can change something when we're completely honest about it. And in the business world, there's a bit of a front that people put on about, oh, I'm so successful, and it's a bit kind of fake. So if someone's willing to be honest that they're not doing so good, that's a great start. And then coaching happens over a period of time. So we would decide how long they wanted to do coaching. In the three things that you're telling me are happening, losing profit, losing people who are there don't want to stay, that's not an overnight fix. That could be something very systemic. So it could be that we decide to work together for 12 months, but we have a load of sessions quite close together to work on the person's leadership, because you'll know in your friendship groups, you see it like you've got a really confident friend and maybe they start to lose confidence and you're not sure why, but you'd need to sort of draw that out of them. And if you can support the leader in the business to be changeable, is there something they're doing that's making people leave? Maybe they're not very good at listening, and that people are saying we're really miserable, and they're like, oh no, it's all fine. You'd have to find out what the problem might be for the person to sort of start to have an idea of what the solutions might be. The other thing that's important in the context that you've given me is it's not just one person. So is it that we'd have to find out why the people left? Is it because, do we need to speak to the staff that are unhappy? So that's where my business consultancy hat would come in as well. And it may also be, like I have actually been part of closing businesses down, and that's something I never thought I would do as a business coach. But sometimes that's the best decision for that particular situation.
So we have a couple of closing traditions on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. Our first closing tradition is to Simon Squibb you and ask you, what's your dream?
I think we've talked about this a little bit before. So my dream is to have some properties, and I'm going to call the business Safe as Houses, and I'm going to rent them in a social entrepreneurship way to people who find it very hard to rent on the open market. Single parents, people coming out of domestic violence situations, they can find it very hard to find safe and appropriate housing. People from LGBTQI communities also. And this extends into my not retirement community. Somewhere in Ireland, there will be this piece of land with a lake and a big house and like a sauna, and it will be a place for people who maybe have unconventional, non-traditional lives, who want to not retire but be in community together. So that's my next addition to the ever-increasing dream.
That sounds super awesome. You can sign me up for that.
Okay,
in a few
good. I've got
years'
that.
time.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
definitely got a customer.
Non-retirement is not about the age; it's a state of mind.
Second closing tradition on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast is to Stephen Bartlett you. So we've got a couple of packs of the conversation
so I'm
cards.
picking from two card packs.
So if you
Oh God, I love stuff like this.
select one, and then if you want to pass the card to Victor or TK, and they'll ask you a final question.
God. Is it good?
Is it ever appropriate to hurt someone's feelings?
Is it ever appropriate to hurt someone's feelings? Where I come from and what I've learned over a long time is your feelings are your feelings and my feelings are my feelings. I can do things that you don't like, and they will create or manifest some feelings in you that maybe are anger or disappointment. But I can, do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like, I'm not in control of your feelings. I might do something indirectly that you perceive have hurt your feelings, and vice versa. So maybe that's a little bit too esoteric. I think I would try not to. But then I also have been around a long enough time to know that sometimes just by being from a certain cultural background or from a certain gender, or even my accent, where I come from, puts me in a position of being different in a room. And if someone previously has had a bad experience with, say, a white woman, that might mean that I indirectly am harmful to that person. So I think it's a very good question, but I believe that my feelings are mine and your feelings are yours. If I took offence at something that you said, I'm the person taking offence.
So thanks ever so much to Anna for coming in today to talk to the pupils. Thank you to Victor and TK for asking the questions, as well as the questions from our audience. Again, thank you to Mr. Kerry, Sector Skills Champion within UTC The Studio. Thanks again to Jay for helping to produce and direct the podcast. And finally, thanks to Paul Brett for his support of the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship, and also Sir Peter Rigby for his support of the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme. Finally, thanks to you for your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing you in another episode in the future. Take care for now.
Thank you, bye.